Who won in court but lost in the court of public opinion? Story 1. The aunt who had to sue her nephew for a hug. Meet Jennifer Connell, crowned worst aunt ever by the internet for daring to sue her 8-year-old nephew. The crime? The kid was so excited to see his auntie that he jumped into her arms and broke her wrist. Kids, am I right? Media headlines: Heartless aunt sues child for loving hug. Reality: American healthcare system strikes again. Here's what actually happened. Little nephew gets overzealous with his affection, and Jennifer ends up with a shattered wrist requiring surgery. Insurance company says, "Cool story, but we need someone to blame or we're not paying." Parents say, "Sure, name our kid, we get it." Because in America, you can't just get medical treatment, you need a villain, even if that villain is an 8-year-old with excessive enthusiasm. The legal assistance perspective? This happens constantly. Nobody's actually suing anybody. It's insurance companies playing musical chairs with money while real people miss work for depositions and get death threats on Facebook. Jennifer had to sit in court, describe how her nephew's love literally broke her bones, all while the internet called her Satan. Meanwhile, her insurance company and the nephew's insurance company are the only ones who actually care about the outcome. She won the case, got her medical bills covered, also got her reputation destroyed, became a meme, and probably can't show her face at family gatherings. The nephew still loves his aunt, probably more carefully now. But sure, internet, she's the villain here, not the system that requires you to legally blame children for loving you too hard in order to afford surgery. Definitely the aunt's fault. Welcome to America, where a hug can bankrupt you and fixing it makes you a monster. Story 2. The security guard who saved lives then got blamed for the bomb. Richard Jewell, remember him? The hero security guard who spotted a bomb at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics and saved dozens of lives. Yeah, the FBI and media decided he was actually the bomber. Because nothing says terrorist like guy who actively prevents terrorism. Here's the timeline of destroying an innocent man. Jewell spots suspicious backpack, alerts authorities, starts evacuating people. Bomb explodes, but casualties minimal thanks to him. FBI thinks he found it too quickly, suspicious. Media thinks fat, lonely security guard fits our narrative. The FBI's profile? He was a wannabe cop seeking glory. You know, because real glory seekers always make sure to minimize casualties and follow proper evacuation procedures. For 88 days, this man was America's most hated. Jay Leno made jokes. SNL did skits. Newspapers ran headlines like, "FBI suspect's hero guard may have planted bomb." The evidence against him? He was doing his job too well. He lived with his mother. He was overweight. He wanted to be in law enforcement. That's it. That's literally it. Meanwhile, Eric Rudolph, the actual bomber, was out there planning more attacks while everyone focused on crucifying the hero. Jewell sued multiple media outlets, won settlements, got apologies, but you can't unring that bell. Can't take back the death threats, the public humiliation, the fact that his heroism got twisted into villainy. Because he didn't fit the right profile. He died at 44, partly from health problems exacerbated by the stress. Saved lives, got destroyed for it. The real bomber wasn't caught for years. But hey, at least the media got their ratings, right? Story 3. A dingo ate my baby, when truth is too crazy to believe. In 1980, in the vast Australian outback, Lindy Chamberlain's 9-week-old baby, Azaria, vanished from their family tent. Lindy screamed the 5 words that would tragically define her life. "A dingo took my baby!" The public's immediate response? "That's the worst lie we've ever heard. Obviously, the mother did it." This was despite the fact that local Aboriginal guides said, "Yes, dingoes do that. This area is full of them." Regular campers confirmed, "Dingoes are known dangers out here. This is believable." Wildlife experts concluded, "This is entirely possible from a biological standpoint." But the court of public opinion, and eventually the actual court, decided, nah, she's guilty. The evidence used against her was a masterclass in flawed logic. She didn't cry in the correct way during public appearances. She once smiled while recalling a happy memory of her baby. She belonged to a minority religion, Seventh-day Adventist, which some found suspicious. A forensic expert wrongly identified spray paint in the family car as baby blood. The prosecution painted a picture of a mother who, for no reason, decided to commit a monstrous act in the family car, hide the body, and then invent an elaborate dingo story. All of this was presented as more logical than a wild animal acted like a wild animal. Lindy Chamberlain was sentenced to life in prison. The phrase, "a dingo ate my baby," became a global punchline. It was joked about on Seinfeld. It was mocked in movies. The entire world was laughing at a grieving mother whose child had been taken by a predator. Then, 3 years later, everything changed. A hiker stumbled upon Azaria's jacket. It was found near a dingo den, exactly where the crazy mother said a dingo would have taken her child. Lindy was released, her conviction overturned. Multiple official inquests finally concluded what should have been obvious from the start. Yes, a dingo took her baby, just like she said, just like the locals said, just like the experts said. But the damage was permanent. Her name will forever be linked to this tragedy, which was turned into a comedy catchphrase, because the truth was just too weird for people to accept. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes reality is stranger than fiction, and sometimes that strangeness can cost you everything. Story 4. The Town Bully Who Was Shot by Nobody. For decades, the town of Skidmore, Missouri was terrorized by one man, Ken McElroy. His criminal resume was extensive and shocking. Accused of shooting a 70-year-old grocer, acquitted. Accused of statutory rape of a 12-year-old, whom he then married to avoid prosecution. Accused of burning down his in-laws' house. Accused of shooting a farmer in the stomach, acquitted. He intimidated countless witnesses into silence and somehow never spent a single day in jail. How did he get away with it? Witnesses would mysteriously forget what they saw after a visit from Ken. Juries would develop sudden amnesia. The man seems to have real-life plot armor. On July 10, 1981, the town reached its breaking point. A meeting was held at the local Legion Hall to discuss what to do. The sheriff reportedly told them, "Don't confront McElroy," then conveniently left town for the day. Shortly after, McElroy himself swaggered into the local bar looking for trouble. What happened next is a matter of official record, and yet no one saw a thing. McElroy walked out of the bar to his truck. In broad daylight, on a busy street, he was shot multiple times from at least 2 different guns. There were an estimated 46 witnesses present. When police arrived and asked who shot him, the response from all 46 witnesses was the same: "I didn't see anything." "But you were all standing right here." "It's a funny thing. I must have been looking away." Even his own wife, who was sitting right next to him in the truck, could only say, "They shot him."
When asked who they were, she couldn't or wouldn't. The FBI was called in to investigate. Still, nobody talked. The district attorney couldn't press charges without a single witness. It was as if the entire town of Skidmore had been struck by a case of simultaneous selective blindness. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved. I use quotes because many believe it was solved the minute McElroy hit the ground. For the people of Skidmore, it seemed a form of justice had been delivered that the courts never could. Ken McElroy won every single court case during his life. He only lost the one that mattered. And somehow, in a crowd of 46 people, absolutely nobody saw who won it for the town. Even now, Skidmore's residents won't talk about who pulled the triggers. Some secrets, it seems, are meant to be kept.
Story 5. The Coffee That Was Actually Lava. Stella Liebeck, the name that launched 1,000 frivolous lawsuit jokes. The woman who sued McDonald's because coffee was hot. Except that's like saying man sues car company because car moved. The actual facts would make you vomit. Coffee temperature 180 to 190 degrees F. Industry standard 140 degrees F. Stella's age 79. Injuries, third-degree burns on 6% of her body. Hospitalization, 8 days. Skin grafts, multiple. Permanent disfigurement? Yes. Initial request, $20,000 for medical bills. McDonald's counteroffer, $800. Let me paint you a picture. This elderly woman's grandson pulls into a McDonald's parking spot so she can add cream and sugar. Car wasn't moving. She's being careful. Lid comes off, coffee spills, and within seconds she has burns so severe her skin is literally falling off. McDonald's own documents revealed 700-plus burn complaints over 10 years. They knew it was dangerously hot. They kept it that hot anyway because it tasted better. Internal memos showed they considered burns an acceptable cost of business. The jury originally awarded $2.7 million in punitive damages, the revenue from 2 days of coffee sales. Judge reduced it to $480,000. Stella likely ended up with less after appeals. But the narrative? Greedy woman wants millions because coffee is hot. Jay Leno made jokes. People still use hot coffee lawsuit as shorthand for frivolous litigation. Meanwhile, McDonald's still serves coffee at the same temperature. They just put bigger warnings on the cups. Because apparently, the problem wasn't the third-degree burns, it was that people weren't warned clearly enough about the possibility of their skin melting off. Stella Liebeck died in 2004, remembered as a punchline instead of a victim of corporate indifference. She never wanted to be famous. She just wanted her medical bills paid after McDonald's coffee literally cooked her flesh. But sure, let's keep joking about frivolous lawsuits. Story 6. Jesse Ventura versus a dead Navy SEAL's reputation. Jesse the Body, former wrestler, former governor, conspiracy theorist extraordinaire, sued Chris Kyle, the deadliest sniper in U.S. military history. Then Kyle died, and suddenly Ventura was suing a widow and orphans. The story. Kyle claimed in his book that he punched out a celebrity he called Scruffface for saying Navy SEALs deserved to lose a few in war. Later identified Scruffface as Ventura. Ventura, that never happened. I never said that. You're destroying my reputation. Kyle, totally happened. I'm a hero, remember? Problem was, Ventura had a reputation to destroy. His entire post-political career involved speaking at military events. Being labeled a SEAL hater was career poison.
Then Kyle gets murdered by a disturbed veteran, unrelated to the lawsuit. Suddenly, Ventura's the bad guy for not dropping the case. But here's the thing. The lawsuit was against Kyle's estate, not his widow. The publisher's insurance was paying for everything. Taya Kyle wasn't spending a dime. The verdict? Jury found Kyle's story was false. Ventura was awarded $1.8 million. The subtitle of Kyle's book had to be changed because it claimed to contain only true stories. Public reaction? How dare you sue a hero's widow? Reality? Multi-million-dollar publisher's insurance company had to pay for publishing lies that destroyed a man's career. But try explaining insurance subrogation to people who've decided you're the villain for demanding someone stop lying about you. Ventura won in court, lost everywhere else. Can't even do WWE appearances with someone screaming about him attacking Chris Kyle's family. The truth doesn't matter when the lie has a better narrative. And conspiracy theorist wrestler sues American hero's widow is a hell of a narrative, even when every part of it is wrong.
Story 7. Casey Anthony. When Firefox Saves Your Life. Casey Anthony, the most hated woman in America. Her daughter Kaylee found dead, duct tape on her skull, body dumped like trash. The evidence seemed overwhelming. The verdict? Not guilty. The public lost their minds. Nancy Grace had a meltdown on live TV. People screamed "baby killer" at her in public. Death threats by the thousands. How could she walk free? Here's how. The prosecutors searched her Internet Explorer history, found some vague searches, built their case. One small problem: Casey used Firefox. The Firefox searches they somehow missed: foolproof suffocation. Clicked on suicide methods involving poison and bags over heads. Then immediately logged into MySpace, Casey's account, not her father's. This smoking gun? Investigators found it, then didn't tell prosecutors. The people trying to convict her never knew their key evidence existed. But wait, it gets worse. The prosecution's theory kept changing. First, she drugged Kaylee to go party. Then, she killed her in a rage. Finally, premeditated murder for freedom. Their forensic evidence? Air samples showing human decomposition in her car trunk. Science so cutting edge it had never been used in court before, or since, because it's basically pseudoscience. Meanwhile, the defense blamed Casey's father for disposing of the body after an accidental drowning, claimed Casey was sexually abused and trained to lie. It was messy, ugly, and created reasonable doubt. The jury followed the law. Reasonable doubt, not guilty. The evidence was circumstantial, the investigation was botched, and the prosecution overcharged instead of going for manslaughter. But public opinion? She's guilty forever. Can't leave her house without disguises. Changes her name regularly. Lives in hiding because vigilante justice doesn't care about reasonable doubt. Did she do it? Probably. Could they prove it beyond reasonable doubt with the evidence presented? No. That's how the system works. Sometimes guilty people walk free because the government has to prove its case. The real tragedy? A little girl is dead and will never know exactly what happened because the investigation was so incompetent they couldn't find the right browser history on a computer. Story 8. Mason Greenwood. When audio evidence isn't enough. Mason Greenwood, Manchester United's golden boy. 19 years old, making millions, dating his childhood sweetheart. Then the audio leaked. His girlfriend, Harriet Robson, posted recordings. You could hear him demanding sex, hear her saying no, hear him getting aggressive. See photos of bruises, blood, injuries, the kind of evidence that usually ends with immediate conviction. Public reaction was swift. Sponsors dropped him.
FIFA removed him from their game. Manchester United suspended him. Everyone knew what they heard. Then, charges dropped. Withdrawal of key witnesses and new material coming to light. Translation: she wouldn't testify, and they found something that complicated the case. What happens next in the court of public opinion? Nothing. He's still guilty there, forever. The legal system says not enough evidence to prosecute, but Instagram says we heard the audio. He gets shipped off to Getafe in Spain on loan. Can't play in England, not legally prevented, just practically impossible. Every game would be protests. Every touch of the ball would be booed. His career in his home country? Over. Manchester United did their own investigation and decided he could return, then immediately backtracked after public outrage. Even being found legally innocent isn't enough when the court of public opinion has already convicted. Now he plays in Spain, where the controversy is distant enough to ignore. Still talented, still scoring goals, still will never escape what everyone heard on that audio. The legal system requires proof beyond reasonable doubt. Social media requires only an upload button. Guess which verdict lasts longer.
Story 9. Monica Lewinsky, the intern who became a verb. Monica Lewinsky, the name that became a punchline, a verb, a cautionary tale. She won in court because she was never the defendant. She was just the 22-year-old intern who made the mistake of, what exactly? Being seduced by the most powerful man in the world? Let's review the power dynamic. Him, President of the United States. Her, unpaid intern. Him, 49 years old. Her, 22 years old. Him, married with decades of political experience. Her, fresh out of college. But whose name is on the scandal? Not the Clinton scandal. Not the presidential affair. It's forever the Monica Lewinsky scandal, as if she orchestrated the whole thing from her intern desk. The aftermath for him: acquitted in impeachment trial, remained president, went on to make millions in speaking fees, elder statesman status. Wife became Secretary of State and nearly president. The aftermath for her? Couldn't get a job, couldn't date, couldn't leave her house without being called a whore. Her name became synonymous with oral sex. Every late-night comedian had a Monica joke. Every bad date ended with, "At least you're not Monica Lewinsky." She tried to disappear, got a master's degree in London, still couldn't escape. Tried fashion design, failed, because who wants to wear clothes designed by that woman? It took 20 years for people to start seeing her as a victim of power imbalance, rather than a temptress who nearly brought down a presidency. 20 years of being a punchline for having an affair with her boss. An affair where the power dynamic was so skewed it barely deserves the name. Now she's an anti-bullying activist, giving TED Talks about public humiliation. Still can't use her own name without it being a statement. Still single, because who wants to bring Monica Lewinsky home to mom? He's still invited to every Democratic event. She's still explaining that she was 22 and made a mistake. The court of public opinion has a longer memory than any legal proceeding, and it's usually the wrong person who pays. Story 10. John DeLorean, when the FBI becomes your drug dealer. John DeLorean, the man who gave us the DMC-12, the car from Back to the Future. Also the man who became the textbook definition of entrapment. 1982. DeLorean's car company is hemorrhaging money. Needs $17 million or it's dead. Enter James Hoffman, an investor with a great opportunity. Plot twist? Hoffman's not an investor.
He's a convicted drug smuggler turned FBI informant looking to reduce his own sentence. The FBI's plan? Let's make DeLorean a drug dealer. The setup was so obvious it should have come with a laugh track. FBI informant. Hey, want to save your company with drug money? DeLorean. I just need legitimate investors. FBI. What if the drugs were really good, though? They pressured him for months, showed him suitcases of cocaine, told him it was his only option, filmed everything, then arrested him for agreeing to the crime they invented, proposed, facilitated, and filmed. The trial was a masterclass in government incompetence. DeLorean's lawyer didn't even present a defense, just played the FBI's own surveillance tapes showing them badgering a desperate man into a fake drug deal. Jury's verdict? Not guilty on all counts. Took them less than 30 hours. But the damage? Complete. DeLorean's reputation was destroyed. Company went bankrupt during the trial. Nobody wanted to invest in the drug dealer car guy, even though the only drugs involved were supplied by the FBI. He won, lost everything. The FBI created a crime, failed to convict him of it, and still destroyed his life. That's efficiency. The word entrapment in law school textbooks? Usually followed by, see, United States versus DeLorean. His legacy isn't the gull-wing doors or the stainless steel body. It's being the guy so obviously set up by the feds that his case became the legal standard for you can't do that. At least the car became famous. Too bad he didn't live to see the profits from that.
The Story 11. The McMartin Preschool Trial, When Satanic Panic Meets Legal System. The 1980s, when America collectively decided that every daycare was secretly a satanic cult. Ground Zero, McMartin Preschool in Manhattan Beach, California. It started with one mother, Judy Johnson, claiming her son was molested. Her other claims? Teachers flew through the air, took kids in hot air balloons to be molested, flushed kids down toilets to secret rooms, and organized satanic rituals involving animal sacrifice. The authorities' response should have been, "Ma'am, are you okay?" Instead, let's investigate every child who ever attended this preschool. Enter Key McFarlane, a social worker with no training in forensics who interviewed 400 children using anatomically correct dolls and leading questions, like, "The naked movie star game is fun, isn't it? Your friends already told me what happened, so you can too. You don't want to be the only one who doesn't remember, do you?" Shockingly, after hours of this, kids started remembering abuse, wild abuse, impossible abuse. Teachers drinking blood, flying in the air, taking them through tunnels that didn't exist. The charges? Hundreds of counts of molestation against the McMartin family who ran the preschool. The media coverage? Hysteria. Every news outlet running satanic sex cult in preschool. The trial? 7 years, the longest and most expensive in U.S. history. Cost $15 million. The evidence? Zero physical evidence. No tunnels, no sacrificial altars, no corroborating witnesses. Just confused children coached into telling increasingly wild stories. The verdict? Not guilty on all counts. The aftermath? Lives destroyed. The preschool demolished. The McMartin family bankrupt and permanently labeled child molesters. The children, now convinced they were abused, dealing with false trauma memories. The mother who started it all? Judy Johnson died of alcoholism before trial. Turns out she was a paranoid schizophrenic.
Nobody thought to check that before destroying dozens of lives. But the satanic panic rolled on. Dozens more daycares accused, hundreds more lives ruined, all because we collectively decided that the most logical explanation for any childhood behavior was probably Satan. The McMartin family won in court. They lost everything else. And somewhere, Key McFarlane probably still thinks she was helping. Story 12. Kyle Rittenhouse, When Self-Defense Becomes Political Football. Kyle Rittenhouse, the case that broke Twitter. 17-year-old with an AR-15 at a protest. 2 dead, 1 wounded. Clear-cut murder or obvious self-defense? Depends on your politics. The legal facts. First guy, Rosenbaum, chased Rittenhouse, grabbed for his gun. Second guy, Huber, hit him with a skateboard while he was on the ground. Third guy, Grosskreutz, pointed a pistol at him, all on video from multiple angles. The political facts? Rittenhouse crossed state lines with a gun. False. Gun was already in Wisconsin. He was there to shoot protesters. He was on video offering medical aid. He was a white supremacist. No evidence presented. He shouldn't have been there. Neither should anyone else that night. The trial was fascinating if you separated it from politics. Pure self-defense law. The prosecution's own witnesses kept helping the defense. Grosskreutz admitted he pointed his gun first. FBI drone footage showed Rosenbaum chasing Rittenhouse. Multiple witnesses confirmed Rittenhouse trying to retreat. The verdict? Not guilty on all counts. Legally correct based on Wisconsin self-defense law. The public reaction? Half the country convinced a murderer walked free. The other half claiming total vindication. Both missing the point. The legal question wasn't, should a 17-year-old bring a rifle to a riot? It was, in that moment, was he legally justified in shooting? The answer, based on evidence, was yes. But try explaining legal nuance to Twitter. Try explaining that you can think someone made terrible choices and was legally justified in self-defense. Try explaining that the law doesn't care about your politics. Rittenhouse is free. Can't go to college without protests. Can't get a normal job. Is either a hero or villain, depending on which cable news network you watch. Won in court, lost any chance at a normal life. The real tragedy? 2 people dead, 1 maimed, and a teenager's life derailed because everyone involved made terrible choices that night. But the internet only has room for heroes and villains, not complex legal realities.
Story 13. The Scopes Monkey Trial, When Winning Looks Like Losing. 1925, Dayton, Tennessee. John Scopes, high school teacher, commits the heinous crime of teaching evolution. The horror. The setup was actually brilliant. Local businessmen wanted the trial to put their town on the map. Scopes volunteered to be arrested. It was publicity stunt meets constitutional challenge. The players. Prosecution, William Jennings Bryan, 3-time presidential candidate, fundamentalist hero. Defense, Clarence Darrow, most famous lawyer in America, agnostic. The stakes, science versus religion in the courtroom of public opinion. The trial was a circus, literally. Carnival atmosphere, merchandise vendors, live radio broadcasts, trained chimpanzees performing on the courthouse lawn. H.L. Mencken, covering it, called it the monkey trial, and it stuck. The highlight, Darrow calling Bryan as a witness and grilling him about biblical literalism. Do you believe Jonah was swallowed by a whale? Do you believe the earth was created in 6 days? How could there be morning and evening before the sun was created? Brian fumbled, stumbled, and humiliated himself on the stand. The fundamentalist hero looked like a fool on national radio. The verdict? Guilty. Scopes fined $100, about $1,700 today. Tennessee won. Kept evolution out of schools. Looked like backwards hillbillies to the entire world. The law stayed on the books, but became unenforceable because no teacher would risk becoming the next national embarrassment. Brian died 5 days after the trial. Darrow became even more famous. Scopes left teaching and became a geologist. Tennessee didn't repeal the law until 1967. The state won the case. Science won the culture. Tennessee became synonymous with anti-intellectualism for generations. Sometimes winning in court means losing everywhere else. Fast forward to today, the same arguments, different century. Some battles never end. They just get new courtrooms. Story 14. O.J. Simpson, the glove that didn't fit, but the guilt that did. O.J. Simpson, the trial of the century, where a man's innocence hinged on glove size and America's racial tensions exploded in a courtroom. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Blood everywhere, his, Nicole's, Ron's, in patterns that told a story. History of domestic violence, with photos and 911 calls. No alibi for the time of murders. Fleeing in the Bronco, with disguise, passport, and cash. The victim's blood in his car, house, and on his socks. The defense? If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And LAPD is racist. That glove demonstration? O.J. wearing latex gloves underneath, trying to put on blood-soaked leather gloves that had shrunk. Like trying to put on skinny jeans after Thanksgiving dinner. Of course they didn't fit. But the real genius was making it about race, not murder. Mark Furman, the detective, had used racial slurs on tape. Suddenly, the trial wasn't about 2 dead people, but about systemic racism in the LAPD. The verdict split America along racial lines. Black Americans, finally, the system works for us too. White Americans, a murderer just walked free. Everyone, this is definitely not about the evidence anymore. O.J. walked free, then made the genius decision to write a book called If I Did It, detailing how he would have murdered them. You know, hypothetically. The civil trial? Different jury, different verdict. Found liable, ordered to pay $33.5 million. Because not guilty in criminal court doesn't mean innocent in civil court. Lower burden of proof is a hell of a thing. Now, he's the murderer who got away with it. Can't go anywhere with whispers. Every documentary, podcast, and retrospective treats his guilt as fact. The legal system said not guilty. The public said, we know what you did. He won the case that mattered legally, lost the one that mattered socially. The juice is loose, but he'll never be free.
Story 15. Fatty Arbuckle, the original cancel culture. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, biggest comedy star of the 1920s, made more than Chaplin. Then, Virginia Rappe died at his party, and he became Hollywood's first monster. Labor Day 1921. Arbuckle throws a party in San Francisco. Bootleg liquor, jazz music, Hollywood decadence. Virginia Rappe gets sick, dies 4 days later of a ruptured bladder. Enter Maud Delmont, professional blackmailer and Rappe's friend. Her story? Arbuckle raped Rappe with a Coke bottle or champagne bottle or ice, depending on when she told it. The evidence? Delmont's ever-changing testimony. That's it. No physical evidence of rape, no witnesses,
Delmont herself was too unreliable to even testify at trial. But William Randolph Hearst's newspapers had a field day. Fatty the Monster, Beast of Babylon. Sales went through the roof. Who needs facts when you have scandal? Trial 1, hung jury, 10-2 for acquittal. Trial 2, hung jury, 10-2 for acquittal. Trial 3, not guilty in 6 minutes. The third jury statement. Acquittal is not enough for Roscoe Arbuckle. We feel a great injustice has been done to him. We wish him success and hope the American people will take the judgment of 14 men and women that Roscoe Arbuckle is entirely innocent and free of all blame. Didn't matter. Will Hayes banned him from Hollywood. His films were pulled from theaters. He went from making $3,000 a week to nothing. Started directing under the name William Goodrich. Will be good, get it? The truth? Rapp had chronic cystitis and had been hospitalized multiple times. She'd been drinking bootleg liquor all day. Her bladder probably ruptured from infection and alcohol. Arbuckle's only crime was throwing the party. He died at 46 of a heart attack, the night after signing a new contract to return to movies. His last words were reportedly, "This is the best day of my life." Hollywood's first cancellation. Innocent in court, guilty forever in public. His name still synonymous with scandal 100 years later. Some verdicts you can never overturn. Story 16. Philip Brailsford, the cop who played Simon Says with an AR-15. Content warning, this one's rough. Daniel Shaver, 26 years old, pest control worker, in Mesa, Arizona for business. Shows off his pellet gun for work to friends in his hotel room. Someone sees it through the window, calls police about a man with a rifle. Enter Officer Philip Brailsford. AR-15 with "You're fucked" etched on the dust cover. Yeah, really. The video is hard to watch. Shaver, drunk and terrified, trying to comply with impossible commands. Hands up. Don't move. Crawl towards me. Keep your legs crossed. Don't put your hands down. If you make a mistake, I will shoot you. Shaver, sobbing, begging not to be shot, tries to crawl forward. His shorts fall down. He reaches to pull them up, a natural human reflex. Brailsford fires 5 rounds. The trial? Jury doesn't see the video with audio. Doesn't see "You're fucked" on the gun. Brailsford claims he feared for his life from the unarmed, crying, crawling man. Verdict? Not guilty of murder. But here's where it gets worse. Brailsford is fired for policy violations. Then quietly rehired so he could apply for medical retirement. Claims PTSD from killing Shaver. Gets a $2,500 a month pension. For life. Tax-free. The video leaks after trial. Public outrage explodes. Doesn't matter. Double jeopardy means no retrial. Qualified immunity means no civil rights lawsuit against him personally. Brailsford won in court. Gets paid $30,000 a year for killing a man. Meanwhile, Shaver's widow and 2 kids get nothing but a video of their father's last moments, begging for his life while trying to follow impossible orders. Sometimes the system doesn't just fail, it rewards the failure. Brailsford is set for life. Shaver's kids grow up without a father. Justice is blind, but sometimes she's also deaf to sobbing men begging not to die.